Jill on the mic. It's about to get real. Keep it live, that's right. From Pennsylvania to across the globe, it's time for the Steelers All-Star Show.
Welcome to the Steelers by the Lake podcast. My name is James Strong, joined once again by all of my co-hosts, Cody, Nick, and Jill from Ohio. Jill, how are you this final February Saturday morning?
I know, right? Tomorrow starts March, which I can't believe it. We're so close to the new football year here in a couple of days. But I'm doing pretty good. Lost my voice a little bit, so it's a little bit of a struggle, but we gonna make it through. Nick, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's mock draft season. I'm kicking us off. So as you see, I've got the mock draft maniac if you're watching on the YouTube down here. It's my favorite time of year. It's combine season. We're in the middle of it right now. We're getting more results coming in by the minute. So I am living my best football life right now. Cody, how you doing this morning?
Oh, I'm doing fantastic. Pup already got a pup cup. I got my 7 brew per usual. Doing lovely. Just real excited for all the things happening. I did a fantasy draft with my buddy on Madden franchise, and so we're doing that. Shout out to you, Devin. Been a fun time. Just football all around, baby. The combine's here. James, how are you?
Hey, you guys know how much I love the combine. There's nothing better than a Friday night sitting at home watching grown men run 40-yard dashes. I'll tell you what. It was an interesting one. This is a class. I'll tell you what, man. Last night, for those of you who aren't sure when we record or whatever, we're recording Saturday morning. Friday night was defensive backs and tight ends. I went to bed before the tight ends ran theirs, and I think it was the second time around playing it, honestly. I think it had already played earlier in the day. But this safety class is lightning fast, man. And that's exciting because that was an issue for us last year. And with 12 picks, you got to hope we get one of these cats that can run a 4.4, 4.3. There was even a 4.2, 8.40 out of one of these guys.
4.27.
Yeah, they're just blazing fast guys. Yeah, I think the 4.27 was his second run. His 4.28 was his first.
Gotcha.
So, yeah, just incredible. That was Sonny Styles' brother. The Styles family just had one heck of a performance in the first couple days here. But excited for today. I'm also very happy that Nick's doing our first mock draft because I don't know if I could talk that long today. We do have a few topics previous to going over that. We're going to talk about our top free agent targets, each of us bringing 3 to the table. We have no idea who the other ones are talking about, so there's a possibility of repeats. You'll have to forgive us if that happens. But first, Omar Khan speaking at the Combine. He got interviewed like 6 times, so he got all kinds of stuff that he put out there in his first comment that I think is cryptic and fun at the same time, is that he indicated that they have more cap space than normal to do things that most teams might not do. And I love the insinuation there is, like, what is it that Pittsburgh could be planning on doing that other teams might not do? There's one thing that comes to my head right away, but I want to hear you guys' opinion, and I want to see if any of you think of what it just immediately popped in my head when I heard this.
I think big trade. I think you can target a big-time player on a big-time team that doesn't that they need more, maybe draft capital or something else. We can afford to pay a larger name outside of just the free agency scuffle. And so I think that's my main thought process with that.
I like that idea, Cody, especially with the talk going around the NFL right now about the Steelers being in talks with the Jaguars about Brian Thomas Jr. Now, obviously, the reports coming out have also stated that there's not really much interest on the Jaguar side of getting rid of BTJ. But I like your thought process because it seems like that's already what the Steelers are trying to do, is bring in somebody who is a bigger name, who is going to be a difference maker. And I like that. I'm hoping and praying that it is not what I fear it is, and that it's the Steelers just keeping the same guys around for a higher price point than they should, which is what a lot of other NFL teams don't do and what the Steelers tend to often do. So that's I'll be the negative Nelly for this one. I'll take that moniker for this time and say hopefully it's not that, but that's what I could see them doing.
Yeah. I also thought trade. I'm not sure who for, but I'm thinking with last season, us acquiring DK Metcalf, that felt so out of like left field for us to go and make a bold move like that. that it's going to be something that shocks the whole fan base because they're just like, we're going to do what we want, and hopefully it pays off.
If they were to make a trade, Parker Washington's the Jaguar I want them to trade for. But what immediately popped to my mind, and I'm glad to be the one to bring it to the table here, is that teams don't typically pay 3 people at the same position top dollar amount. This feels to me like a Nick Herbig contract extension might be right around the corner because nobody does that. Nobody pays 3 outside linebackers top tier money. It's a unanimous thing on this podcast. We love Nick Herbig. The guy's play on the field is incredible, and he's good enough that a lot of other podcasters and reporters on other teams are already putting all these trade rumors out there. We'll do this for Nick Herbig. We'll do that for Nick Herbig. How about we just give him an extension and just shut it all down right there? So that's what popped to mind for me, is that would be a very unorthodox thing that not many teams do, that they do have the salary cap space to be able to do. I feel like we're in a very awesome position. You know, we talked last week about that 2023 draft class and how strong it is. There's a lot of talent there. We don't have anybody on that list that's been to a Pro Bowl yet, but it does feel like there's a bunch of guys that are just that close. Maybe it's an increased role away from being a Pro Bowl caliber guy. And Nick Herbig is one of the guys that headlines that to me. It's Nick Herbig. It's Joey Porter Jr. I think if he comes away with 3 interceptions but still has those 15 pass breakups, he gets a Pro Bowl. Darnell Washington, if he gets 80 targets instead of 40 targets on a season, he probably catches 65 of them, has 7 or 8 touchdowns, and we got to talk about him in Pro Bowl conversation. I feel like the talent is there. It's just more usage, more time on the field, or just 1 or 2 more of those opportunities taken advantage of by the individual players. So I'm anxious to see exactly what Pittsburgh does. I think the next few weeks are going to be really exciting as free agency's right around the corner here, and that's going to kick into an interesting time of year. Another thing that Omar Khan mentioned is that Jalen Ramsey, he doesn't have any plans of moving on from him, according to what he said. Really loves him as a teammate, as a player on the field, his versatility he talked about a lot. And it just, to me, what else are you going to do at safety right now, right? There's no backups that you're ready to put in a starting role based off of play on the field. So what do you guys feel about Jalen Ramsey? Are they right to hang on to him? Should they be moving on from him?
I'm hoping. Oh, I hear a crack. Crack coming.
It's a good safety play.
It's a good safety play indeed. And that's exactly what I hope they keep him for, is for that safety play. I mean, I know there's been talk about moving him back to corner. He can play nickel corner. We don't want that. We see Joe's head going, and I completely agree. I was actually listening to Steelers Depot last night, and they had mentioned moving him back to maybe the nickel spot. No, thank you. We love Jalen Ramsey. We love him for what he can do, that hard, heavy hitting, and playing safety allows him to do that a bit more. He doesn't have to go around and chase these younger, speedier guys. He can analyze the field, line up the hit, and make the play. And that's what I like out of him. That's what I want out of him. And I want him to be able to mentor some younger guys. Like, obviously, he's played the corner position and has some experience, and he can be that guy in the room. And especially if we take a corner in this draft, which I definitely think we should, especially if we don't bring in somebody in free agency, really could utilize his expertise at the multiple positions now. And with last season, how well he played, that wasn't with a full season of preparing to play that position. He was thrown into it in the middle of the season. So with a full offseason, with a little bit of in-game experience, I can only imagine that he's going to improve at playing a position that he wasn't and he did play it before, but a position that he hasn't played for some time, getting back into the groove of things, that's exciting to me.
Yeah, those are my thoughts pretty much exactly, especially like getting a full off season of the position, right? Oh, you've got to be today.
There we go. We're each other today.
Wait, who's who? I don't even know.
Corford wants you to find the difference between these two photos.
But not only that, with Elliott coming back, I'd like to see Ramsey and Elliott being on the field together and what that could potentially look like, So I'm super excited to see Ramsey at safety. That's where I want him. Yeah, the safety class is stacked. So then to be able to have him mentor somebody that we draft, and even like that's where the depth is needed. Cornerback and safety. If you're looking at our roster, I was like, oh God. Oh no, very bad. That is a high need for the Steelers. So I think keeping Ramsey in the safety position so that you can build around that is what they should do.
I'm on board. I think Ramsey needs to stay. I think, and this is going to go perfectly right into our talk about free agency. Is I didn't like the last few years about going for all these older guys. I don't like it. It doesn't make me feel like we're playing for the future. And there was aspects of it that didn't even make me feel like we were playing for now, because these guys were technically not in their prime. They're a little bit past it, but they're still playing good ball. We got to see that out of Jalen. I'm excited to have Jalen still around. I think he adds a solid piece of depth at all those secondary positions. But the other thing that is intriguing to me is if a defensive coordinator comes in here and wants to play mind games, and you have Jalen lined up at the safety position, and then you have a third safety maybe playing in more of a linebacker position in a nickel kind of defense, and then they swap. Like, have Jalen come up and play the nickel, and the other safety drop back. There's a lot of things that Jalen allows us to do from a creative standpoint on defense that you might not have with a lot of other players in the NFL.
Yeah, I'm with you guys. Let's keep Jalen Ramsey at least one more season and see how things play out, right? I 100% agree with Cody on the comment of the age of that room, right? It's an old room. The only young guy in that room is Sebastian Castro, who didn't get to play on defense last year. But we saw at least some urgency with Pittsburgh on attempting to retain him close to the organization. They tried to hide him on the practice squad. He got stolen off at first opportunity to steal him back. They did so. So I like that. That does show a little bit of their desire to keep him around and maybe have him be a future part of that room. But it does need more youth. It does need some infusion in this NFL draft, or maybe even in free agency. I feel like Jalen Ramsey could still help a little bit in the nickel corner position in those short yardage situations. So let's say it's 3rd and short and the other team marches out 3 wide receivers. Go ahead and let Jalen Ramsey cover the slot guy in that situation. I feel like they're not as likely to go deep. They're more likely to run short stuff or maybe try to run out of that formation, and that's where Jalen Ramsey really excels. His physicality on the field was impressive to me for a corner just transitioning into safety. He hit like a guy that's been playing safety his whole life.
Yeah.
And he hasn't played safety basically since college. He really hasn't done it in the pros. So I'm excited to see, like you guys had mentioned, what kind of chemistry can he develop with Deshaun Elliott. Deshaun Elliott missed most of the season last year, and he's been our best safety for years. So I think there's some potential for the play in that room to be drastically better with just the 2 starters returning. And then let's fill in some youth in behind them. With the wisdom of these guys, with the ability of these guys, maybe they can bring along the next great pair. Maybe we can find a couple guys in the draft that they can develop, help teach what they know, and maybe have that next duo in behind them. Who knows? So I like the idea. I think Ramsey needs to stick around. There was a lot of good reports, too, of late in the season of him being the guy that stood up in the locker room and kind of challenged the rest of the locker room and said, no, we're not going to lay down. Let's go out there and do what we do. And then they went out and won 4 of their last 5 games of the regular season. And a lot of guys in that locker room had a lot of positive things to say of Jalen Ramsey stepping up and being a rallying point in the season. So I like anybody who can add that kind of positivity to a locker room, no doubt about that. Last guy that I heard a lot of conversation about was Patrick Queen. I know we've mentioned Patrick Queen already here. He did mention that Patrick Queen was good for us. A lot of people took that as, oh, well, Patrick Queen's good to go. Let's go. All right. And I thought that it was kind of a very specific wording. He didn't go out of his way to say Patrick Queen was awesome. Patrick Queen was exactly what we've been looking for. We can't wait to extend Patrick Queen. None of that was what he said, but he did say that Patrick Queen was good. So yeah, to me, I feel like this is a prove-it season for Patrick Queen. He led the league in missed tackles last year. That's not something you want out of your starting middle linebacker and your green dot wearer. So I do feel like this is a very important season for Patrick Queen. He's young enough that an extension would be appropriate, but I want to see a little bit more on the field. I want to see a few more tipped passes. I want to see a few more forced fumbles, some interceptions, maybe even getting after the quarterback a little bit than what we've been seeing. Some of that's going to start with the defensive line play being a little bit better in front of him, so he's getting to play clean. But how do you guys feel about this with Patrick Queen? Is he the guy that should be getting an extension in this room, or should we be looking to the draft or outside? Cody says, let's go to Jill first. She's the Patrick Queen.
She's the PQ lover.
Patty Q. Okay, I love Patty Q. I can't even be. But my problem, and I've said this before, is he's too hot and cold. We need consistency. Like there were games where it was just like you were saying Patty Q's name every other play. You're like, he is all over the field. He's in these positions. He's getting himself to where the action was at. And then there were games where he's just completely missing assignments. And you're like, what are you doing on the field? Well, I put me in pads. I'll do a better job. So it's just, I think giving him another season to prove that he can be consistent, because that is what makes good football. Consistency, and using that as the baseline to then increase where you're seeing more batted down passes, where you're seeing those forced fumbles, where you're seeing him trying to get to the quarterback. I want to see more consistency out of him, because the hot and cold is too much whiplash for me. I love him when he's doing what he needs to be doing, but if we find a good middle ground of like, I'm consistently doing this on the field. Like I'm consistently stopping the run here. I'm consistently tipping a pass when I'm in my position. Yes, then I'm all for it. But I got to see it.
Yep. I like to call it the Katy Perry season because it was so hot and then cold, the yes and then no. It's a tough one because, he's not getting younger. He's not old, but he's not getting younger. And the play did seem to sort of fall off a little bit. So you would think you could get him at a cheaper deal now if you're going to extend him than if he has a good season next season. But if you do that, then you risk, he could have the poor season next season. We just rewarded him with the contract, and now we're locked into that. So I'm of the mindset of push it off and give him the wait and see year. You might end up having to pay a little bit more because of it, but I'd rather pay a little more for a good player than be paying a player that we don't even have on the roster if we decide to cut him later on. So I'm a wait and see on Patrick Queen.
You say Katy Perry, I say Kesha. TikTok, man, the time's running out. I mean, come on, man. I mean, like you said, he's not getting any younger. There's no way Pittsburgh misses on 2 drafts between this year and next year with drafting another middle linebacker. We hit a few years ago on Peyton Wilson, like by a mile. We got to find another stud like that who's going to be just a ball hawk all over the field, making tackles, making plays, getting interceptions, tipped balls. I don't think I see him here another 2 years or more than another 2 years, I should say. But again, who are you going to put if it's not him? Who's going to be in that position? That's the big question mark.
Well, and especially if we don't know what's going on with Malik Harrison, so there's I do foresee no matter what, if it's the draft, if it's free agency, going middle linebacker, so especially, and what Carson Bruner. So James, looks like you have some thoughts.
Absolutely, I have some thoughts. My thoughts on Malik Harrison are let's just cut the cord right now. That wasn't a good season for him.
Right.
He was brought in to be the thumper, and he was not the thumper. Maybe once in a while he did make some good plays against it, but he showed that he just doesn't have the speed to get to the outside, and that was taken advantage of left and right versus us. So I'm moving on from Malik Harrison, even though he has more. I think he has one more year on his deal, but I would cut him anyway because I don't feel like it's worth whatever the money was, and I don't think the money was even that big.
He's the thumper when the play is forced to him. He can't go out and make the play.
Ding, ding, ding. That's going to be 1,000 points for Cody, Tanner. Well done, Cody. That's exactly what it is with him. You give him that one-on-one. You run into his hole, he's going to defend it well. But if he's got to go chase it, no. So we need another guy that can do that. We've seen some glimpses from Peyton Wilson. All of us are big on Peyton Wilson. We'd like to see him more on the field. But the pathway for him to be on the field more is probably Patrick Queen not being on the field. Because somebody's got to be the green dot wearer, and it's not both of them. So I feel like Patrick Queen needs to have a really big season for Pittsburgh this upcoming year. You don't cut him right now because you don't put yourself in a situation where you have no one to run the defense.
Right.
That would just be mismanagement of the team. So he's got one more year on his contract to prove that he can be more consistent, that he can be more of a playmaker, that he can be the guy that can be the central piece going forward. But if it's me, if I'm Omar Khan, I'm cutting Malik Harrison and I'm taking one of these lightning fast middle linebackers from the draft. Give me one of them, maybe two of them. I don't know. You got 12 picks. Why not take a shot at a couple of them? I feel like your other pieces are pretty nice. Peyton Wilson, again, I think he led the team in tackles. I'm sure Cody can check that real quick. It was PQ and Peyton Wilson were like 1 or 2 tackles away from each other, and Peyton Wilson didn't even start all the time on defense. He was just a part-timer on defense. So a lot of that was like additional tackles on special teams. I realized that. But I got a feeling that Patrick Queen played a lot more defensive snaps than Peyton Wilson for the tackles to be that incredibly close. I thought he edged him out by like 1 tackle or something on the season.
I'm pulling it up right now.
And then Carson Bruner, as you mentioned, Jill, we love what he did on special teams. He was incredible on special teams. I'm very much so looking forward to his opportunity this upcoming preseason games to play a more extensive role in the defense. Last year in the preseason, he didn't get a lot of burn on defense. It was behind those guys that didn't even end up making the roster before he got on the field, and I feel like he's earned that right to be in that second and third team middle linebacker group now.
So one of those guys had 126, one of those guys had 120.
Yeah, so incredibly close. Who was 126?
Peyton Wilson.
Peyton Wilson, yeah. So how does your part-time middle linebacker end up with the most tackles on the team? I think it goes to show how underestimated he is as far as the talent level of Peyton Wilson. So I'm excited to see where the middle linebacker group brings us, because I do feel like Pittsburgh will add in this draft. I think they would be crazy not to take one of these dudes in this draft. There's some good guys. I'm excited to hear what Nick's got in his mock draft today to see if he grabs one or where he does if he decides to do so. But they could address this in free agency too, and that's our next topic is what 3 free agents would you like to see Pittsburgh bring into the team? And do you guys want to just like each of us does one and then we go on to the next person and go around, or do you want to one person say all of them, next person say all of them?
I think we snake it.
Snake it. All right.
Yep.
Well, I'll tell you what, if we're going to snake it, I have written down in order Cody, Jill, Nick, James. So if we do that, it'll be easier for me for writing it down.
I love it.
All right, Cody, who's your first guy? What's your number one free agent you'd like as a Pittsburgh Steeler?
My number one is going to be a guy that has already been a Pittsburgh Steeler in the past, and that is one James Daniels. Bringing back James Daniels. I feel like he has matured as a guard since leaving Pittsburgh. We obviously had some ups and downs with him, but with a position that we've already have a big question mark about, bring him back, let him go to work with these guys, these young guys, and let him rekindle his fire with the Pittsburgh Steelers.
I like it. He was a very, very consistent player for Pittsburgh previously. Very consistent player for the Bears as well. Just had an injury with Miami. Otherwise, we wouldn't even be talking about him right now. Joe, who's your first person on your list?
All right. This is new for me for free agency, so give me some grace here. But
Don't say Joe Flacco.
That's an insult. Oh,
The look of disgust on her face right there.
that was literally crazy.
Joe,
Marking Joe Flacco off my list? No, I'm just kidding.
Right. Dang it. Delete. I was scratching out. I was looking at Rasheed Walker with being the left tackle. So a lot of this went into like question marks about Jones because Omar Khan said things about like Darnell Washington being good to go, but then said Jones was a well, we have to see how he heals. And so that tells me this neck injury is more serious than they're letting us know, or they're not sure what's actually going to happen. And so that tells me we're going to need potential tackle and guard because I'm not sure about Sayamalu. With Walker, he's younger. And that's why I think we should go for him because he's younger and he's cheaper than Sayamalu. So Sayamalu is projected like 27 million. Walker is projected 20 million annually. So
he was on my list. I had prepared as if I wasn't sure if we were going to be doing like double up or like everybody try to do unique. So I have a long list of free agents that I was potentially interested in. But Rasheed Walker was on my list. On the top of my list, though, is I like the wide receivers in this draft. However, I'm not so sure we're going to be able to get a difference maker if we don't go early rounds. And in a lot of the mocks I've been doing, they've been flying off the board. So I'm looking at, and I know the price point might be high, but we've got the cap space. I'm looking at Alec Pierce from the Indianapolis Colts. He's been a hugely productive wide receiver. Put him on the other side of DK Metcalf, and defenses would fear our passing attack. So I've got Alec Pierce as my number one free agent target.
I like it. Pittsburgh very grossly needs another wide receiver. I don't think any of us would argue with that. So definitely a valid piece to go after. Mine is a room where a starting position is not necessarily open for conversation right now, especially with what we talked about earlier in that room. But I really like Nick Cross. Nick Cross, the safety coming out of the Indianapolis Colts. I don't think that he would be a top dollar person. The safety market is usually undervalued in free agency. So you can oftentimes get guys coming off of that rookie deal for a good price. He's only 25 years old. And when he came out in the draft, he was one of those dudes that did really well at the NFL Combine. So he would add that extra bit of speed that maybe that safety room is missing currently. And maybe somebody that, after this upcoming season, he becomes your free safety, and then someone you add in the draft becomes a strong safety on the other side. But I like Nick Cross, and I think he'd be an excellent addition to the team. My second one, since we're going snake style, I get to go a second time here. I've got David Edwards, the guard from the Buffalo Bills. A younger player than Isaac Sayamalu, so we'd be getting somebody younger back into that offensive line that would solidify that left guard position. And then you don't go into the draft saying, crap, I need to find a guard and I can't wait too long, otherwise these guys aren't going to be good enough to start. I think that would solidify that position for you. I expect Pittsburgh to bring in someone to compete so that it's not just seventh round player Spencer Anderson and then maybe someone in the draft. So I would expect them to add someone to the room. I like David Edwards. I think he'd be a nice selection.
Well, there goes my next guy as well. So you know what they say about great minds. But no, I do have a wide list here, and I'm trying to keep it unique. So another free agent that's going to be another big name, but I think would be a great addition to the safety room if we could swing it. Kobe Bryant from the Super Bowl champion Seattle Seahawks is coming off of a great year, so he's probably going to carry a high price tag, but is younger than Ramsey, so would be able to be a guy that we'd be able to potentially give a multi-year deal to, and then not have to worry about that safety room for a little bit of time. We just talked about how that room is a bit older, so bringing in a bit of a younger guy who's shown he can produce sounds like a winning formula to me.
all right. Number 2 for me, and it's because as I'm looking at the draft tracker, I'm noticing a lot of like informal just discussions that they're talking to, and there was only one tight end that was an informal talking to. So I'm going to go tight end in free agency just because we know with Mike McCarthy, he's not heavy with the tight ends, but to only have 2 and no depth, because I fully expect Jonnu to be cut because he needs to be cut, and I'm over it. But Cade Otton,
Yeah.
he's projected 7.9 million, which is lower than Freiermuth, lower than what we would have given Washington. 59 receptions for 579 yards. And like I said, because there's not a lot of tight end talking right now with the Steelers in the draft. I know they just came yesterday, though, right? It was just last night that they were there. So
Yeah, I think they ran last.
Late increase, but that's where I'm going.
So my next one is going to be also dabbling in the wide receiver group, as we've discussed a little bit already, and I am going with one Rashid Shaheed. Pittsburgh,
on my
Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh needing both a guy to kind of extend the field, a speed guy. We've had that in Calvin Austin, although we haven't seen him quite catch the balls that we've wanted him to catch. I also think Rashid Shaheed would help with the kick return game in the sense of getting our running back, our starting running back, out of having to do that role. That is really getting two things out of the way that we really need. I'm not saying Rashid would be an automatic starter from a wide receiver standpoint, but easily the third or fourth guy coming off the bench and providing some extended plays or extended field coverage for the defenses playing against us.
Very cool. That puts you back up with your third selection, Cody.
It does. This one's not as fun. This is more of a if not. This is more of an if not James Daniels to bring in Evan Neal, the guard from the Giants, as another guy that could take the space of Isaac Seumalo if that doesn't pan out the way it needs to. Not I wouldn't say a top target of mine, but that's more of a what if.
Very fair. How about you, Joe? Who would your final person be?
You guys keep taking mine because clearly we need a wide receiver, so that's the two that I had on my list. So thank you so much for that. I'll put one that I'm not fully endorsing, but I wrote it down as a what if is Eric Stokes, a corner. Just because 16 games, 53 tackles, and only 0.6 yards allowed. We need some depth in the corner room. That could potentially be something that I think what's hard with this, like what was challenging, is that we don't know what Mike McCarthy, what they're going to do in the draft. And we have such a high need at safety. We have such a high need at corner. We need a receiver. We're looking for those linebackers. But with 12 picks in the draft, like, are we going to fulfill all of that just in the draft? Or are we going to dabble in both? Because we probably can. So I just don't know what they're actually going to do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a tough thing to figure out, and we don't have the history of previous seasons to go off of.
Yeah.
This is something that Nick mentioned in our group chat yesterday, is that we can't necessarily lean on the trends of previous years of Steelers habits because it's a whole new coaching staff.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't know necessarily, do they like the same guys? There are some things scheme-wise, like staying in a 3-4 defense, that you can kind of predict a little bit with maybe defensive linemen to a degree. You can look at past success of specific positions in certain arm lengths or 40 times or whatever that is kind of universal across the NFL. But leaning towards Steelers habits is a little tougher to do right now.
This is very challenging.
Yeah. Very
One thing that we do know the Steelers have been known to do is poach good players from teams that they're familiar with in the past. And I will be doing that for my last pick, even though I wanted to go guard. Most of the guards that I wanted were taken by the rest of you guys. So I love the great minds thinking alike that we have on this podcast. But I'm going to go for corner Greg Newsome III, who has formerly been with the Cleveland Browns. So he's familiar with the AFC North style of football. This is a little bit of a boom or bust kind of free agent signing. Is you've seen him be elite in the past. You've also seen him struggle at times. But he knows the AFC North, so at least he's got some familiarity there with some of the teams that we're going to be playing multiple times a year. So kind of gives him a little bit of an easier path to the Steelers. Might like to bring him in, and hopefully we can turn a player that we used to despise into a player that we all will know and love.
Yeah, some up and down since leaving Cleveland for Greg Newsome, but he had some really great moments while in Cleveland. So definitely something that maybe you could pull back out of him. My next one, my last one for this exercise, I went a little bit unorthodox here. Probably a position that nobody was thinking about. I went with off-ball linebacker Leo Chenal, formerly of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Was on my list.
A highly athletic former third-round pick. His rookie deal's up, so still a younger guy, born in October of 2000. So you're looking at a 26-year-old guy. You could bring him into the room for competition. Is he somebody that would take over the starting role right away? I don't know, but you could then have a legitimate battle between Patrick Queen, Peyton Wilson, Leo Chenal. Okay, figure it out, boys. Who's the top dog? Somebody needs to run this defense, and we need consistency.
I like
I
it.
like it. Oh, love it.
Is that new lime flavor?
This is the new flavor, guys. It tastes like a lime Skittle, which is perfect. Alani, please sponsor us because I would.
I was gonna say, Alani, you don't sponsor us yet, but we're very open.
We're very willing.
For real, we're all about Team Alani here, no doubt about that.
They're in my fridge, but they're for the girlfriend.
My proxy. That works. It's
yeah,
fine.
yeah, absolutely.
Speaking of actual sponsors, though.
Yeah.
We do?
I really thought you were going there, Nick, with
We do happen to have a wonderful sponsor who also has marvelous beverages and food, the Edinburgh Hotel Bar.
Steelers by the Lake is in part sponsored by the Edinburgh Hotel Bar at 100 Meadville Street in downtown Edinburgh, with a full menu including daily lunch and dinner specials and a family-friendly, smoke-free environment. Details are available at 814-734-5103 or online at edinburghhotelbar.com. The Edinburgh Hotel Bar, where you had me at hotel.
We do love the Edinburgh Hotel Bar. I miss it very much so. Normally would be there watching the draft, but not this year. I will be in Pittsburgh, so what a fun time. But speaking of draft, Nick, it's your time to shine, my boy.
You know, it's about time that I crack mine because I've been waiting for this. Oh, I've been waiting for this. Just a little Marvel reference there. But I'm gonna be sipping Pineapple Maui because I'm so excited to be going over my first mock draft of the year. We'll be doing these up until the actual draft happens and possibly going live for the draft itself, like we did last year when Pittsburgh's making their selection. So keep an eye out for that.
Going live a lot.
We will be. There's a couple picks that are within like 2 picks of each other, so it might even be that we just stay live for some of those ones. But
I'll just say now I'm committed to being live for every single pick, all 12 of them. And if there ends up more, then there ends up more.
And who knows, there may end up less. I did not do that this time. So we are potentially fielding trades in these mock drafts, but decided not to this time around. And so therefore we would kick off with Pittsburgh at pick 21. So without further ado, the Pittsburgh Steelers are on the clock. And at pick 21 in the NFL draft in Pittsburgh, I have the Steelers selecting a guy that Cody is going to love trying to say the name of, and that James is also going to be very happy that I picked. I've got Olavega Ione, guard out of Penn State. He's a natural left guard. The man is a mauler of a human being, and he seems to just be a good character guy too. If you've ever followed the Big Ten or followed Penn State, you might have seen the clip where there was a equipment guy pushing all their equipment after a tough loss, and Vega's getting heckled, and he just kind of hops over a barrier, which was very athletic for a man of his size, and then just begin helping the guy who's being heckled to push the cart away, and just doesn't let any of the heckling get to him, and kind of reassures the staffer there. So you've got a bit of a character guy there too, but was just very solid part of that Penn State line. One of the bright spots on that team in a bit of a down year for them. And I'd love to have him be that plug-and-play guy for Isaac Seumalo, especially if we don't bring him back or bring in someone in free agency.
This is the best offensive lineman in this entire draft class, in my opinion. Tackles included, centers included. Vega Ione of Penn State is just an incredible player, known specifically for his pass blocking being the biggest strength of his game, not as much of a run blocker, not as much of a mauler, I should say. Still a very good run blocker, but just an elite pass protector at guard. And if you take a pick like this in the first round, you are immediately saying, hey, I might have a new best offensive lineman just like that. This is a dude you would expect to be in the Pro Bowl on a regular basis. You would expect him to get all pro votes because of how talented he is. This is a really, really good dude to be excited about. Very light on his feet when it comes to moving out in the open if you need him to pull from one side to the other. And his anchor for a bull rush is just impenetrable. It's incredible how talented this dude is. So I'm excited to see if he runs and does any of the drills at the combine. I'm betting he's going to do real well at them. And I'm betting this dude does real well on the bench press too.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing the combine results. Unfortunately, I don't have that from the offensive line just yet. But he's still a monster of a man. And like James said, the pass protection is great. And oftentimes that kind of suffered for Pittsburgh. And we didn't really see as much of that last year, mostly because Aaron Rodgers was so quick to get the ball out. But also the line just held up well in order to give him that time to get the ball out. So this pickup only improves that, because there were times where Sayamalu was very obviously the one getting beat on a lot of those pass pro plays. And so to see a young guy like this, who, as James mentioned, is more likely than not the best lineman in the draft, regardless of position, would be absolutely fantastic. Second round pick, natural pick, is 53 overall. I have the Steelers selecting Julian Neal, cornerback from Arkansas. I do believe we have 40 results on him, so let me just grab that here. Or combine results, rather. He's measuring at 6'2", 203 pounds, 32 and 34 or 3/4 inch arms. Hand size is 9.5, and for the combine results, ran a 4.49 with a 1.59 10-yard split. Had a 40-yard vertical, 11-foot 2-inch broad jump. Did the cone drill in 7.3 seconds and had a 4.2 second 20-yard shuttle. So a real kind of speed guy. I was watching some tape of him, and he seems to always be where the ball is. He's very good at diagnosing where the ball is going and timing his play to either defend the pass and deflect it, or to get in there and lay out a hit that's going to have the ball fall incomplete. Had 10 passes defended, 2 interceptions this past year. So can't say enough about how he was able to sort of just get to the ball. And then with a team that needs corner help and depth, definitely want to be grabbing one in this draft. And it really sort of falls off after round 2. So I didn't feel comfortable waiting too much longer to grab one.
This is like the prototypical Steeler of what we've been looking at most recently in these drafts, right? The taller, great length at 32 3/4 on the arm length is incredible. A 40-inch vertical is incredible. That 4.49 40 is very nice. And I think this would be a great fit, a real nice compliment to Joey Porter Jr.
Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh needs cornerbacks. We've already talked about it. This guy can obviously catch the ball as well as make some plays after the fact. So that's very exciting to see. I like the cornerback position also being taken early again. You can't miss on these guys, and this isn't – I mean, it's a fast class for sure in the secondary, but that doesn't mean they're all going to be able to keep up with guys who are already in the NFL and make plays on the ball.
Yeah. Well, and we saw what happens when corner is neglected, or we have somebody who's only playing subpar football. So to see that, I think taking that at a higher pick is very important for the Steelers.
Yeah, reminded me a lot of JPJ and his style of play. And so to have a guy of similar style of play on the opposite side was something that was very attractive to me. And I could not wait any longer to draft a wide receiver, because I do not know what we're doing in free agency yet. I'm hoping that we go after one. But I grabbed a guy that I believe Pittsburgh has already had a pre-draft visit with, in Ted Hurst, from wide receiver from Georgia State, with pick 76. He is 6'3" and weighs 207 pounds. We do not have combine results for wide receivers yet, but I do have some of his production from his time at Georgia State. Had 71 receptions this past year, 1,004 yards and 6 touchdowns, averaging about 14.1 yards per reception. So a bit bigger, leaner guy who's able to get some separation and make you pay a little bit by getting some good production in terms of his average yards per reception.
James, anything on him?
I'm just looking to see if I've got a confirmation on that meeting or not yet. There is a pretty solid list. It doesn't look like he's on the list, but that doesn't mean they wouldn't be interested in him. So, wide receivers in need. We all know Pittsburgh has to go grab a wide receiver in this draft. And it would be a good draft to probably grab 2 of them, in my opinion. So I'm all in. I think if you don't get it in the first 2 rounds, you better get one in the third.
Absolutely. Moving right along to our second third round pick. We've got quite a number of them here. And I know this is going to be another name that James recognizes. And if you listened to the recap show of some of the Senior and Shrine Bowl recaps that we did, you'll probably recognize D tackle Darrell Jackson Jr., who I will be selecting with this pick. He was a guy who had been catching my attention a bit earlier on because of just where the picks were falling as drafts were going, but he's with the Florida State Seminoles, had 44 tackles this year and 1 sack, so not the largest production of all, but really kind of stuck out to James during his bowl game and was a guy that I found interesting and thought, why not let him sit behind Cam Hayward for a year, develop a bit more and add to that depth at that line that we've already got very well. And then hopefully you have to make a decision in the next coming years. Are you going to extend Y.A. Black or are you going to extend Darrell Jackson? We've got some great depth at that line and hopefully we can continue to build it.
Yeah, he's one that I thought stuck out real big in the practice film. He didn't get an opportunity to play in the game, but he did practice at both the Shrine Bowl and the Senior Bowl. So he attended both. The size is impressive on this individual, right? That's one thing that just draws you in right away. You're looking at a 6'5" and 4/8, so 6'5.5", 315, 34 3/4 inch on the length. That's an incredible reach for this kind of guy. So do you expect him to get 10 sacks in a season? No, but is he a dude that can stack and shed and make some moves? Absolutely. He's a very disruptive individual. So if you were to grab someone like him, you're getting very real competition for Y.A. Black at that basically number 4 defensive lineman position. If Cam Hayward returns as we expect him to, the top 3 are pretty much locked down. But we don't know what's going to happen when Cam retires, and I would expect him to probably after this upcoming season when his contract runs out, unless he plays at an elite level once again this upcoming season. It's always a possibility. We would love to see it. But I'd love to bring a guy like this in to have a really, iron sharpens iron competition between Y.A. Black and Darrell Jackson Jr. for who can be that guy to take over that spot.
When we talk about replacing those positions while we still have the elite player in the position. So I think that's a great move. That way he can learn from Cam Hayward, like exactly what you're saying, James, where him and Y.A. can really battle to see who's the best of the best and who deserves the position.
Yeah, pick 99 was up next. And I ended up going with offensive tackle Tristan Lay. I believe is how you pronounce that. He's out of Clemson. I do not believe we have combine results for him yet as well, since I don't know if he was, first of all, even invited. But second of all, we don't have the linemen yet. But he is measuring at 6'6", 310 pounds. And according to his profile with Clemson, runs a 5'2" 40. So a guy who can move for his size a bit. Offensive linemen typically are a bit more of the lumbering ones on that 40-yard dash, but provided some solid tackle play for the Clemson Tigers and a guy that I think could be or either a rotational piece to start or at least some depth if we don't bring someone in free agency, because some of these guys that we've got on the backup end of our spectrum are either running out of their contract or didn't provide the best play when called up from the back of the roster. So got to get some competition in there to at least push them to be and do better. And I think in the third round with this pick here that we've got a guy who could potentially challenge for some reps.
Yeah, I think that's a great move. You're absolutely right. The depth at offensive tackle is not what we would like it to be. It is nice having Dylan Cook there, but we don't know what's going on with Broderick Jones. Dylan Cook could end up the starter this upcoming season. So let's bring in a guy from a big program with good size, and let's see what he can do. Is at the very worst, good added depth, and you never know, maybe a future starter.
Absolutely. Moving along here, this is where I take my first double dip, and one that I was very excited to take. I wanted to get another receiver in this draft, and one that came from, like you said, James, a big program and was able to show some production. So I went and grabbed Malachi Fields, wide receiver out of Notre Dame. He is measuring in at I just had it here and it went away. 6'4", 218 pounds. And with the Fighting Irish, posted 36 receptions for 630 yards and 5 touchdowns. But the average yards per reception was 17.5, which I just thought was phenomenal production. Loved the tape of this guy. He just plays big. And that's something that you like to see from your wide receivers, is a guy who can go up there, climb the ladder, make the play, but also get some separation so you're not always having to see the spectacular catches. You love to see them, but you would like to also see some separation from the defense in order to be able to kind of, go out and make it so that you don't always have the contested catches as well.
Yeah, a nice big-bodied dude. He's going to get those high-point balls, and you never know, he could be a person to compete for a starting position down the road. I remember him getting, I want to say he had a reception on a 2-point conversion attempt maybe in the Shrine Bowl. One of those games, I remember him catching one in the end zone. I don't recall if it was a touchdown or a 2-point conversion, but definitely that prototype size that everybody drools over.
Yeah, it would be nice to get somebody back. I mean, obviously we had DK last year, didn't get the jump balls as much as we thought he would. Maybe this is a guy that would also bring the best out of him. Maybe this is a guy that would challenge DK and bring his youthful competitiveness back. So I love the size. I love the strength. Even looking at his highlights, he has the speed to kind of create some separation from some of the more average or slower potential defenders. So mismatch definitely also when you light him up in the slot. So very excited for the potential with this guy. I love the pick.
Next pickup, I finally ended up going for a linebacker. And if you are a fan of the NFL Stock Exchange, as James and myself are, you'll hear Trevor and Connor often go, what do we love? Low moving cost. And so I went with a linebacker out of the University of Pittsburgh in Kyle Lewis. He's a guy that's been flying a little bit under the radar, but has once been, or not really flying under the radar, but kind of falling down some draft boards after a little bit of drop off in production. But at one point was heralded as a pretty solid prospect. Got a 4.5 340-yard dash, 158 on the 10-yard split, 39.5-inch vertical, 10.9 or 10-foot-9-inch broad jump. It ran the cone drill in 6.97 seconds and the 20-yard shuttle in 4.26.
Yeah, kind of a smaller guy, just under 6 foot, 220 pounds. So definitely a run and chase style linebacker. I would think he would be an immediate impact on special teams and someone who could really help you out in coverage. That's the thing that pops on his tape, is he's really good in coverage, to the point where they had even thought maybe he might be able to play a little bit of nickel corner. That's how good he is in coverage. So definitely a piece that could be a nice piece going forward to help a defense out.
Yeah, we talked about getting speedy guys. If he can play nickel corner, he's definitely going to be a speedy linebacker. So,
yeah, that was one of the things that I really liked when I saw that he was available. Was they mentioned how he could crash down in the run game, but also was solid in coverage, which is the opposite of what we just talked about with Malik Harrison. So, it was kind of like hey, we have this problem. Let's grab a guy who's the opposite of that problem in the fact that he can be what we are lacking there. So, really enjoyed the fact that he was available and the low moving costs. So there you go. The next pick Pittsburgh has, which is going to be number 159 overall. I forgot to say 135 overall for the last one. But I went with another guy who fit the same mold of somebody who was once highly touted and sort of fell off a little bit, but could still develop well in the right sort of scenario. And I went with another double dip, going back to the corner position and took Damani Jackson, corner out of Alabama. Have been suffering at the corner depth on this team. And if this is a guy who can come in and maybe be coached up, can learn from Jalen Ramsey, who's now hopefully transitioned to safety, but has been elite at the corner position for years and is now elite at the safety position. If we can get this guy to be what he once was and then some, it could be a huge value pick for the Steelers at 159 overall.
You know me, I love a 40-yard dash on a corner, so I love seeing that real fast time on this kid with a 4.41 at the combine. That's fantastic. Nice size. You'd like a little bit more arm length on 31 3/8. It's just a hair on the low side there, but you can work with that. So for a fifth-round guy, I think you're getting a nice upgrade as a backup corner who could come in and contribute in those dime positions and maybe even do some gutter work on special teams. If you do retain James Pierre, you want to get him off of gutter. You don't want him playing gutter anymore. So I'd like a guy like that with that kind of speed and size as a gutter probably.
Absolutely. And when you're going for a guy in a later round pick, you've already got your second round corner who you're projecting to potentially challenge for starter reps. This could be that special team rotational piece guy that you're looking to potentially have around. With my next pick, which is, let me get the overall, 213 overall, we're going for the Connor. What's that?
Sixth round now?
I believe so.
Okay.
It's not telling me the round. It's just giving me the overall
213? Okay.
213. We're going for the Connor Hayward replacement. I love Connor for his Spartan ability, but he was a make-a-wish tight end at best. So I'm grabbing a tight end who can both catch the ball and block. So good on you, Nate Brokricker, I believe is how you pronounce it, tight end out of Texas A&M. He's 6'5.5", 245, 32 5/8 arms, and a hand size of 10.5. He's he only ran the 20-yard shuttle, but ran it in 4.4 seconds. Often compared to Tyler Conklin-like prospect who has shown some ability to contribute in the NFL, but was really solid in the blocking game. Also had an increase in his catching career, his receiving career at Texas A&M in this last year. So trending in the right direction on a late round flyer to get your third tight end. I don't have a problem with that one bit. Seems like a guy who also might be able to do a little trickery in the Spartan formation if we decide to bring that back and maybe call it the Aggie instead because he's from Texas A&M.
I like arm length on a tight end for blocking. I think that's an important thing. If you're expecting the guy to be a real good blocker, in 32 5/8 on his arm length, which is real good for a tight end. So I like that very much so. And I agree with you. That is something that Pittsburgh needs to be looking at in this draft, is restocking the back end of this tight end room. You don't want to lose those top guys, but you should probably be adding. And this group does have some nice tight ends in it.
Absolutely. With pick 225 overall, this is where I said, hey, let's take a late round flyer on a quarterback. Drew Aller was sitting there. He fell down the draft board, Penn State quarterback. Fell mostly due to injury, and he's had some up and downs. But if we get Aaron back and then we don't need a fourth quarterback, then maybe he goes by the wayside. But we luckily the Browns traded up with the Cowboys in this draft to take Ty Simpson in round 1, so we were saved from Mel Kiper's projection of Pittsburgh going with Ty Simpson in round 1. But Drew Aller being available there, I said, it's a late round flyer. Why not take a shot at a kid who showed some promise early on and then just got derailed from an injury, played in a big school in big moments and was able to show some promise. So not really a shocker of a pick here, not really a big splash play on these back ends of the draft. It's a late round flyer, and who knows, maybe he turns into the next Brock Purdy. But worst case scenario, you're not really too worried if this pick doesn't pan out.
Yeah, especially when you consider having Will Howard still available to get some playing time. That drastically changes the average age of your quarterback room.
Yeah, if you're a Penn State fan like some of us are here on the draft, we've got our Penn State gear within reach at all times. Drew Aller, and that Drew Aller was a frustrating prospect because you saw the size, you saw the arm strength, the ability to stand in the pocket and deliver the throw. And even at times, his second to last season, he increased his athleticism. He got himself in better shape. He was better at scrambling than he was earlier on in his career. He looked like he was heading in the right direction. But what he never had at Penn State was a wide receiver worth a darn. They have not had that in forever there. They've had good tight ends year after year. They have not had good wide receivers to the point where they're going out in the transfer portal and bringing in 2-3 new guys almost every season. It's just not working out. So if you're going to take a shot on a quarterback, do it for a guy that's got the size, he's got the arm strength. It just needs possibly, not necessarily, but some good coaching could turn his career around. I don't know that he's ever had good quarterback coaching in his entire career so far, but the tools are there. The size, the arm strength, the ability to launch that ball. He's been inconsistent. Is that technique? Is it footwork? I'd like to see him with Mike McCarthy and see if Mike McCarthy can figure all that out for him, because he's got a habit of doing that.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
With Mike McCarthy being the quarterback guru that he is, that's another reason I took him. But Cody has thoughts, and I just cut him off, and I apologize.
No, that's fine. I just think that Drew Aller, I mean, if this would have been what was it, last year or 2 years ago? I mean, this would have been, if he fell this far down, you would have been having a steal. And so this is one of those guys that, again, I think is kind of the opposite of the Will Howard situation. Will Howard won a national title and still fell that far down. This guy almost took them to a championship without the quarterback, without the coaching, without the wide receivers. Honestly, to some extent, with mediocre blocking even from the O-line. This is a guy that could definitely turn into a project and could definitely be a potential future starter for Pittsburgh.
Absolutely. And speaking of some competition and projects, we're not quite sure whether or not we're going to have Corliss Waitman back. I know we all want Corliss Waitman back on this team. We think he did a great job. But also it doesn't hurt to potentially use a late round pick to bring somebody in who can challenge him and be the competition in camp. And so the top punter in Brett Thornton out of Georgia was still available. And I said, hey, since it's still early in the combine, we don't have a whole lot of the risers and the fallers yet, and potentially seeing if there's going to be any better value picks there at pick 238 overall. So I said, why not bring in a guy who could potentially challenge Corliss and see if he could win out that starting spot. So Thornton had some decent production there at Georgia and had some solid punts where he was able to pin it within the 20. And so I thought, why not bring in a guy who can be that camp battle and potentially even win out, be a young punter for this team.
I think it's a good idea. We saw, I thought, a nice season from Corliss Waitman until the snow flew. And when it got cold, that's when Corliss Waitman started shanking a few punts and not being as consistent as he was the rest of the season. And unfortunately, if you're going to make a run at the playoffs, it's going to be cold in Pittsburgh. So if that's not something he can correct, then you do need to address this punter position. So, hey, bring in some competition for him. I'm all for it. When you have this many picks, drafting a punter just means you don't have to try to bring somebody in as an undrafted free agent. You don't have to compete with 31 other teams.
Yeah.
And that's it for my first official mock draft. We'll see how this all pans out. We'll be doing some more of them as we get more results from the combine and free agency. But let us know in the comments what you think of my first mock draft. If you've got a mock draft of your own and you took any of these prospects, throw it down in there. Give us what you think. Let us know. And if you get something right, we'll shout you out on the podcast.
Yeah, give him a rating from A to F. We'll talk about it.
Please do.
Because realistically, I mean, that's what they do. That's what at the end of the draft, everyone always gives their draft grade, and then obviously that changes throughout the years, and we look back. But a huge year, it sounds like, for Omar Khan and Nick Pretzel at the draft.
Absolutely. I think you did an excellent job, Nick. We'll be keeping these going the rest of the season up until the actual NFL draft. So we'll find out. I don't know that any of us has decided we want to go next quite yet, but one of us will have one ready for next week.
Yeah. Nick, send us home.
We can't thank you enough for listening to us here at Mock Drafters by the Lake. If you could, please leave us a like on Facebook, Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and YouTube, and Spotify. Subscribe, ring the bell. It does not cost you a thing. Don't forget the 5-star reviews anywhere you can, but especially on Apple Podcasts. Make James and the rest of us very happy. And until next time, these are your hosts, Nick, Cody, James, and Jill, signing off.
Peace.